is our most important resource, right? Once it's spent, we can't get it back, ever. Today we're going to consider quality time, and we'll think about it through the eyes of children. The idea of quality time goes back to the 1970s, the second wave feminism, when all the anxieties about mothers entering into the labor force in huge numbers was at its height. Despite mothers many hours away from home, the argument was that the kids are going to be all right. When she was home, theoretically, she could be sure to spend engaged and focused, enriching time together with her kids, i.e. quality time. The idea of mothers achieving quality time with kids became contested. For example, it was described as a myth on the cover of Newsweek magazine in 1997, and it's been regularly disputed. The idea of quality time was expanded out, too, to not just to be about mother's time with kids, but just everyone's time. And a recent study looked at Instagram posts with the quality time hashtag, and it showed people, parents or not, with nature, with their families, with friends, with good, delicious food, signifying a special kind of time. It was notable that in about 99% of these posts, there was no technology pictured in the quality time. There weren't laptops, there weren't phones pictured. And even a friend of mine recently posted with the quality time hashtag, I noticed this week, she was hiking in the gorgeous Italian mountainside with, of all people, her PhD mentor. I was like, now that is quality time. As a time use researcher, I'm here to help us recognize quality time, to think about how we can understand and measure it better, and think about it in terms of policy. We can work toward more quality time for our population. There's actually great examples of public initiatives for healthy time use, for example, in the city of Barcelona, Spain, where they're promoting calm and efficient uses of time, as well as changes in schedules that can help their population thrive. In this talk, I look at quality time from the point of view of kids because they're least powerful, they don't have a voice, they don't have say in our research and our policy much at all. And this can help us understand what's important. I was talking to my mom about this. She's in her 80s, and she's like, oh, it sounds pretty good. But she said, don't forget about the old people. So I'm like, yeah, we really need to think about old people too. We need to center the elderly because they're also dependent. They're not necessarily in the thick of the work-family nexus, but they're often depending for cares. And in our aging society, we must also consider the time, the quality of time of Elders' Day. So I do promise, Mom, I will return to this issue. So what is quality time? When we look at scholarship, there's lots of definitions, but I want us to pay attention to three things, at least. And we can think about quality time in terms of activities. What are people engaged in? What are we doing? What's the sequence of people's days? We can think about where is the activity taking place, especially important now, where's the location of work and other kinds of activities. We think about with whom we spend our time, and that's another important key piece. And then we can actually ask people their subjective experience within their activities. How are they feeling? Are they sad, stressed, tired? Are they happy? Do they feel meaning? These are all important pieces that relate to well-being and mental health. So we can start with the kids. We can think about research by my brilliant colleague, Suzanne Bianchi, and that showed that actually working mothers protected their time with kids. From the 1970s to the present, their time with kids actually increased, even though they're doing more hours in the workforce. And so did dad's time increase over this period. They gave up some leisure, gave up some couple time, they multitasked, but they were protecting quantity time with kids and actually the quality within that. So we can think about what's in those activities. A little bit of quality can go a very long way. Reading, conversation, meals, going out to a cultural event. We can think about the location of activities and where they're at and with whom and which significant others matter in kids' lives. We can think about whether devices are present in activities, and we find in a lot of research that that really matters. So we can commit to improving quality time for kids who have the least power. We can think about school and how that's structured and what activities are happening there. A recent study I conducted with Dana Ray and Irene Buchman looked at the use of the American Time Use Survey and looked at teenagers' time with parents and without parents. And actually they felt that their time with parents was more meaningful and happier than time without their parents, surprisingly, but important to know. So looking at the with whom of kids' days is important as well. Something really awful happened in the pandemic in a time when caregivers, parents were isolated from the village of other carers. The pressures weighed down on them. There weren't extended family, there wasn't an ability for kids to be in daycares or schools. And we noted in some hospitals in the UK and in Canada, they showed that a lot of kids were coming, more kids were coming in 2020 compared to 2019 with broken bones and brain injuries. And obviously this is a really horrific way to think about it, but the kids needed other carers. The with whom is really important. It's not just on parents, and it's not just on a small number of people, but it's on that village. So that was an extreme situation. In studies I've done, we look at how much time kids spend away from mothers. It's actually 2/3 of their waking time is not spent with mothers when they're in elementary school, and then as teenagers, 3/4 of the time. So let's look at their days and their time. I think the quality time for kids is linked to the quality time for their carers, right? And so again, looking up from their lens, we can see the nurture that those caregivers need and what are their quality days like. I was struck by a friend's story. She's a working mom, at the time had 2 kids, 8 and 10 years old, and had a job in the arts. She was talking about, at a gathering, this time where she felt really cared for, really, a friend had driven her somewhere. She was not having to make any decisions that day. She wasn't responsible for anyone. She felt very attended to and cared for by others. And I was like, what is this special place that she's talking about? I don't know. I needed to have more clarity. I was only half in the conversation. What was this special quality time? It was a medical appointment. And I was like, what is going on? Where our quality time for the caregiver was actually at a doctor's office. It wasn't a dental appointment, but it was a procedure that, she felt really was good time for her. And I'm like, well, from a kid's point of view, maybe it's not ideal to have a working mom need to escape to the doctor for their quality time, but to each their own. So, and interestingly, in one of the very early mentions of quality time was a 1973 article in the Annapolis, Maryland Gazette. It was not about mom's time with kids alone. Gabrielle Burton was a mom of 5 in 8 years. She had 5 kids. She was also a writer, and she was quoted as saying, "The major goal of each of these role changes is to give a woman time to herself. A woman's right and responsibility is to be self-fulfilling. She gives quality time rather than quantity time to each task, whether it be writing, which was her occupation, cleaning the house, or tending the children." The article was based on her new book, which interestingly was titled, "I'm Running Away from Home." Another story about parents from a kid's point of view shows again that they need the village. This teen has spinal bifida. He's confined to a wheelchair and has many complex health needs. The parents put in a huge, unbelievable amount of care for that child. Speaking about quality time experiences, the dad says that's the very best time of his day is getting his teenager, who weighs a lot now, but getting him ready for his day. That's his favorite time of day. And that's amazing. But also they need care outside. And when there's not places for the teen to go, he'll just have to sit in front of the TV. There's no other place for him to go. And so we need these places in the community where people who need special care can go. And that needs to be beyond the family unit. So we need to ask the question, how people can spend their days. Where are the places that people can spend their days outside of that family home? So my next reflection is about quality time at work. This is a place we spend a ton of time over our life courses. And again, we can think about it from the point of view of kids. In the great book, Ask the Children by Ellen Galinsky, it showed that kids 8 to 18, it wasn't that they wanted so much more time with their parents, but they wished that their parents were less stressed out by their work. So kids would like to know, how can we make quality time at work where the activities we do are energizing and creative rather than not meaningful, where that grunt work or work that has to be done can be spread across and paid well. Where is the location, the right location for work activities? And when do we need the with whom? When do we need the team? And when don't we need the team? We can also think about how those workers are experiencing their time. And do they get appreciation? Do they feel meaning in the tasks that they're doing? I used the early childhood longitudinal study with a grad student, Catherine Warner, and we showed that when teachers felt respected by their administration, when they felt they had the proper resources in their classroom to be able to teach well, that quality time tipped over and made kids have fewer behavioral and emotional problems. So this was a really fantastic study to show that the quality experiences for teachers spill over to their students. It's a win-win. So we can learn how to make more quality time at work. It's not necessarily that hard. When we think about work, actually less is more, perhaps. We need to think about people doing less work. There's all kinds of excellent research going on right now in terms of a 4-day work week, rethinking how much work we really need to do. And the evidence is rolling in from many excellent studies to show that we can have less work and have more time for the rest of life. Our own Changing Time study showed in American and Canadian and Australian contexts with interviews with the mothers and fathers during the pandemic, fathers saw their pandemic times as a turning point. The community of fathers now doesn't want to go back to old times.
They want to retain this new quality time that they have with their kids.
In a study using quantitative data during the same time period, fathers in 2021 in the pandemic times compared to 10 years earlier, they felt more meaning and happiness in their meal times because they were able to enjoy more meal times with their family. So we know that there's this positive spillover. Maureen Perry Jenkins has this great new book called Work Matters, How Parents' Jobs Shape Children's Well-Being. So again, from the perspective of kids, it's all linked together. And she showed with working class parents, their conditions really matter for others. So in closing, we're gonna think about one of the most stressful jobs in North America by some accounts. Very quick decisions are needed. They have to be right. They have to be made in minutes or seconds, and lots of lives are on the line. That is the job of air traffic controller. For some reason, my son decided to take this career path. He's now in training to take on one of the most stressful jobs in the world. Right now, there's thousands of planes above us. In a relatively small slice of North America, he and his colleagues are controlling that air from a center in Toronto. So many of you might be flying back from Montreal to the south of the US or the Midwest. He's got your back. So we want to look at not just air traffic controllers, but everyone's work. Do we want them to have quality time, to have the right schedules, to be fully staffed? Yes, we do. We absolutely do. And getting back to the perspective of the old.
When we have quality time during our work days, with breaks and meaningful tasks, flexibility and so on, we are not only better off ourselves, but we can, in turn, tend to those others who need care. The kids, of course, and also the elderly. And we can enhance the quality of their days.
Thank you very much.